All right, today I got a special guest. I got Rodney Pryor joining me, and Rodney has been a dude that I really looked up to. When I was younger, I was lucky enough to have him as a college teammate my freshman year before he moved on to Georgetown. And Rodney, for those who don't know, he's a professional basketball player. But like one of the main things I love about Rodney is I feel like he's expanding and becoming more than just a basketball player. And that's something that I really, really admire. Like not only, Rodney, but a lot of other people. I feel like they get kind of consumed by just basketball and they want to be known as just a basketball player and really nothing else. And there's nothing wrong with that. But, like I know personally, I want to be known as a person that just is like about improvement, whether that's basketball, health, anything like that. And I know Rodney is a definition of that, moving in, doing a lot of new things. And I definitely want to touch on that. But to kind of start it out, Rod, I want to give you the floor and just kind of let people know. I know you got a really good story as far as, your playing career, now where you're at now and kind of moving forward. So if you wouldn't mind, I'm kind of just going to give you the floor for the first little bit and just kind of tell people who may not be familiar with you kind of your background in sports and, beyond.
Oh, well, man, I'm super excited to be on. I'm so glad you're doing this too. It's just amazing to see how everybody, flourishing in life. So I just want to take my hat off to what you're doing. But yeah, for me, growing up north side of Chicago in Evanston, Illinois, just like any other kid, just running around, just trying to figure out ways to have fun. But once you start to grow up in life, you got to start to figure out what type of direction you want to go in. It's important to have aim. I fell in love with sports. Initially, it was football. Then it became basketball. Once the competitive drive kicked in, you just want to try and be the best player you can be. And of course, try to be the best player, in your area or at your school. So I was fortunate, to be around a lot of talented guys who pushed me on a day-to-day basis. I had mentors. I just had a community behind me that really poured into me and helped me, build a foundation to where it could last through adversity because my career after high school was a bit of an adverse one due to injury. So after high school, I went to Evanston Township my first 2 years. Freshman year, made the B team. Was a bummer, but kept my head down, kept working. Sophomore year went well. We were a super talented team. I ended up transferring to a private school. My first year didn't go well, adjusting to the private school life versus public school, the discipline, all of that, the structure, which was really good for my career. It humbled me and made me work even harder. It gave me a definition of, who I am. Senior year, had an outstanding year. We won a lot of games. I played well, but didn't get enough looks for D1. So I had to go to JUCO route. When I went JUCO, now this is where it gets crazy. My first year, I went to Kirkwood out in Iowa. Really good program, but there didn't play. Just couldn't find a way to get on the floor. A lot of it was a little stubbornness, thinking I was better than everybody and that I should be on the floor. And then just having that moment of realization of like, you're not as good as you think. You need to keep working. So I was fortunate enough to have a guy on the team that was super athletic, and he taught me how he got athleticism. I was able to train with him and get my athleticism up, but I ended up leaving that school because the competition wasn't great. With me not playing, we were still winning games by 30. So I'm like, this is not a place I want to be. So I transferred schools to Cloud County in Kansas. Now that we're talking the top JUCO league with Hutch, Seward, Barton. And there, I'm super excited. Another opportunity to push myself. In our first scrimmage game, I break my foot. And this is my first injury ever. Season-ending injury. So now I had to recollect myself, and I'm a man of faith. So at that time, I felt God was telling me, you need to get your life together. You're backsliding. You're living in sin. And when I got back, it was funny. I tried to play God, basically start going to church, start reading, start praying more, but it was all with the intent to just get back on the basketball floor. And God was still faithful and good and allowed me to come back an even better basketball player. I went to the top 100 camp for the Mullins camp, played extremely well. So this is my third year in JUCO. I'm coming back for my second year at Cloud, and I just have a lot of momentum. My dream of playing D1 looks real now. First day of practice, I tear my ACL. So now 2 back-to-back season-ending injuries, and now we're talking ACL. This is like the cream of the crop injury, and that was like one of the defining moments for my career and for my life, really. I remember after surgery, I just got to a dark spot, and being a man of faith, I finally had my moment where I was like, God, I'm going to serve you, regardless if I play basketball ever again. And in that moment is when I received peace. I had a peace that I never knew before. And with that peace, I was just able to go out and live and play. And, everything I did was for the glory of my Father in heaven. So that aspect just changed the whole dynamic of how I see sports, how I see people, how I saw my life. And I was so blessed to receive a scholarship from Robert Morris with no film.
That's crazy.
Coach Toole gave me a scholarship, no film, and I was still coming back. I was still on the back end of rehab. I wasn't even fully back yet, so I got to campus and was still recovering from ACL. And, man, it just turned out to be such a blessing. That year I led the team in scoring. We went to the NCAA tournament, almost living in a dream of what I had to get to that point. I couldn't take any moment for granted. Even like the grind of a season, the ups and downs, the sprints, the annoyance of, coaches, I couldn't really live in that reality because it's almost like a movie that I'm in this position, from my story coming all the way from Evanston. And yeah, it had a blast. And then the following year, you guys come in and I'm in a position of leadership. So it was just amazing. We didn't have a great season that year, but I just felt like the mold of our team, we found a way to come together. We was hanging out on and off the court. Everybody, like you said, mindsets lined up with each other. We wanted to better ourselves in life and on the court. So we really had a unique group of guys. I wish we could have won more games together, but I don't take for granted that year because it was monumental for who I am as a man today and a player. Just seeing your drive, seeing you get up every day at 5 and sticking to your routine because that's what you love to do. That's what you do. Is not just to say on Instagram or in podcasts like, yeah, I work hard and I do this, this, and that. But to see you, live that and knowing that you weren't going to get too many minutes in a game and to see you do that day by day by day by day was just like crazy for me to see that, me being technically the best guy on campus. So like, it was funny too. Like you just get those little moments of appreciation every day to find a push. And that the push was always you because I'm like, I know Ant's up right now at 5 on that treadmill.
Hey, you know what's funny about that team is like people talk to. I mean that's the highlight of my basketball career. That year with you guys, and I was like, that is the best worst team I was ever a part of. You know what I mean? Like in terms of like win loss, we really weren't that good, but like as a team. Like you mentioned, we all had the same goal, and we always knew, what this guy was doing or what that guy was doing, and we all hung out, off the court in dorm rooms, things like that. And like you said, I wish we could have won more games because we were such a connected group, and I think that was so important, and that's why I always mention your name when anyone ever asks me about that because I'm like, yeah, like I was there when Rodney was there, and they're like, oh, really? And I'm like, yeah, because I know then obviously after that you went on to Georgetown, and started doing some great things there, but I always like to mention that because I was able to learn from guys like you, guys like Kayvon, guys like Elijah, guys like that where everyone was so different though. Like, we were all similar, like you said, you put it perfectly with your mindset, but individually as people, we were different. Like you mentioned, like with me, I was that weird dude, in the dorm room with Joe, my roommate doing weird, up early, going to bed at 9 a.m. or 9 p.m., going to bed real late. You guys would be over in the family room, carrying on, I used to be like, man, these guys got to shut up. I got 8 a.m. tomorrow. Like, plus I got to I got to get up at 5. I got to work out. I got to go, and I just remember that. And looking back on that, I just laugh because I think, man, the things I would do, to go back and do that again. Because then even after that, obviously you left. My kind of journey went a different way. I ended up stopped playing and started, doing other things. And, like, the team kind of just disbanded. A lot of new guys coming in, a lot of guys going out. So it wasn't like I felt like I was missing out because I wasn't. Everyone, all my friends were gone, basically. But it was like if I could relive that year with that team, because, like I said, that was the best year of basketball I've ever had. Between the traveling, between the experiences, playing at Georgia, playing at Cincinnati, doing it. Like you mentioned, too, I'm happy you touched on the idea of all the, the ups and downs. Because I know we got stories. We could write a tell-all book, and, we got tons of stories we got that went on, behind closed doors. But, like, I wouldn't trade that for the world. That's part of that journey. Yeah. That's part of that story. So it wasn't always sunshines and rainbows by any means, but overall as a year, it was just an unbelievable year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. The beauty of life is adversity. Like, anyone can do it if it's easy. All those weird, sayings you hear, but, like, the adversity shaped my life, literally. Literally. For me, people that, when you get to a certain stage, when I got cool, you just go, wow, like I want that. But people don't realize the first 5 years of my collegiate career was just ugly. Like yep. 2 back-to-back injuries, not playing my first year, having your ego being slapped around constantly. Like, so to have that 5 years, I was groomed to have that year I had at Georgetown because of what I had to go through. So that's why I try to encourage people to fall in love with the journey, not the destination. The destination is what keeps you pushing. Yeah, I knew I wanted to be in the league. I knew I wanted to play pro ball. So all of that just, going through the ups and downs, it was like, oh, I see the light at the end of the tunnel. Like I'm getting closer. So I think that's one of the things people miss out on is like, how Cole said it, it's beauty in the struggle. And just having those moments where you can lay down on your bed at night and go, man, we did a terrible day of working out and coach was annoying, but I'm a D1 player.
That's
like, what I'm saying? Like little moments of appreciation we miss because life's so fast. We're so busy. We got classes, we got tests, we got practice, then we got games, then we traveling. So it's like you almost can't even come up for air. But if you can find those moments where you come up for air, when you get back into it, you have, another gear that you can tap into to move forward.
And that's exactly it. And it's hard to do that. It's hard to be like grateful and appreciative for everything in that moment. Because even like I'm thinking 10 and 10s, our conditioning test. Like thinking about that now, to this day, that's probably the hardest thing I've ever done athletically. I mean, like, you talk about pushing your body.
By far.
I mean, I tell people all the time, that's the hardest thing in college basketball. Until someone shows me otherwise, I'm convinced. I mean, that thing's brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, that thing is brutal. But, like, looking back on that now, I smile thinking about it because we did that. And, like, how hard that is? I mean, but, like, people that are listening, they don't understand. Like, that is hard. And in that moment, I wanted to kill everyone. You didn't want to talk to anyone. You were done. People were all like, "Oh, good job, congratulate you." You're like, "Man, don't touch me." Like get away from me. Yeah. I need a minute to breathe. But now looking back on that, I'm like, man, not many people could do that or have done that. Because it is physically taxing. And that's just like a small thing, but you could look back on even your playing career between all the big games you played in and the things you did. And at that moment, you're riding on adrenaline. That's what you do. You're scoring however many points against whoever, doing this, doing that, winning the NEC, your first year. And you're like, yeah, that's what we do. And now you have time to reflect. You're like, man, that was a hell of a ride. That was a great experience, and then that makes all that other, that stuff that we were talking about earlier, that makes it worth it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The fact that, you build community that way. Like, and one thing I love about sports and locker rooms, when you're going through, those rigorous things of 10-10s and 5-game losing streak, but you got to come to the locker room and stay together. Like this now, just getting on the phone. It's like we haven't missed a beat.
Yep.
And it's like that with all the guys. So the beauty of a community that's created where you don't have to check. It might be a year or two before you hear from someone, but once you get on the phone or you meet up in person, it's like no beat has been missed. So I love that aspect too, that we were just able to be there for each other as people, because that's what matters. Like
exactly. And like, even expanding on that, when we were losing games, the locker room was never like hostile. Like we weren't, hey, Rodney, you're not doing your job. You're not doing your thing, like fighting. We never fought. On the floor, there were some fights, in practice in terms of, trying to push guys. But once we were off the floor, we weren't in the locker room saying like, man, we suck, or man, you got to do better. We're not good. We were always so confident. And that's why to this day, honestly, I'm still like baffled that we didn't do better. Because we had the guys, I feel like we had the coaches, I feel like we had everything, but I'll never forget, and this is something I tell people all the time about you, is we were in the weight room the one day, and we were going into the NEC tournament, and we were the 8 seed, we had to play Wagner, they were the 1 seed, and I remember I'm like, man, Rod, I really want a ring. I was like, I'm itching, man. Give me a ring. You're like, all right, Ant, you want a ring? I'm going to get you a ring, Ant. I'm going to get you a ring. And I'll never forget that, because you weren't kidding. You were being 100% serious. Like, you really were like, all right, I'm going to get you that. Like, we're going to take care of it. And we went into that game, and I remember we actually almost won. We only lost by a couple. But I remember that so good, because it was that moment of confidence. You're like, all right, like, let's go. Like we're fine, because we knew all we had to do was get to that spot. As long as we got in the NEC tournament, we could win it and still get to, the NCAA tournament. And I'll never, ever forget that. But that was the attitude all year. We were never doom and gloom, like, man, we suck, we're this, we're that. We were always confident, but for whatever reason, we just couldn't put it together on the floor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the one thing that's so unique about sports. When it comes to winning and losing, like, the pieces was there. It was just like, man, you look back, we lost so many games by under 5 points.
Exactly.
Where one shot just didn't fall, or they hit like a crazy shot, in the last seconds. So yeah, like, the confidence, man, in life is everything. Yep. If you lack confidence, like if you think on things with fear, like if you'd have came up to me and I was like, we're the 8th seed, they're the 1 seed. They beat us twice in the regular season. It's over. And then the weight room session's over. You know what I'm saying? Then going to class that week is over. Mm-hmm. So it spills out into everything. So now we like, all right, yeah, we gonna win it. So we won the day in the weight room. Then we won the rest of the day. We won in the class just because confidence spills out into everything else the same way fear spills out into everything else as well.
Yeah, I love that, and that's so true. Something you said earlier, though, that I want to kind of backtrack and ask you about. You mentioned how you were, obviously you're a big man of faith now, and you've always have been, but you did touch on the idea of you were a man of faith in that moment because of what you wanted on the basketball court, or on this or on that. And I feel like you see that a lot when it comes to sports. I feel like you see these guys that are, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful when things are going good. Things are going your direction and you're the most holy person in the world. Things go bad and you don't even talk about, your faith or talk about anything in that moment because you're good. But then you need something. And then you're, I got to pray because I got a big game tomorrow, or I got to pray because I have a test, or, whatever it is. Like you mentioned, basketball life, kind of talking to them about them together. But what was it like in terms of your mindset shift from I'm going to be a man of God when I need something versus I'm going to be a man of God and a man of faith, every day, all day, 365 days a year?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I think it's one because it's relationship. A lot of people, when we think religion, we think pass fail. Like if your performance isn't great, in terms of obedience, then you're a hypocrite. when you begin to realize it's a relationship, like it's a day-to-day relationship of taking things off and putting things on. And then you hear scripture like the renewing of your mind. And that was the moment I had the renewing of a different mindset of not using God for my gain, but God using me for his gain. When I was able to flip that, then I became real in living out my faith versus like, God, I need you to do this for me because my ego is so huge and I can't control it. And, in sports, that's the unique thing about, because ego is good.
Mm-hmm.
If you can realize you have an ego and know how to tame it. Because in sports, without an ego, how are you going to, compete and be better than somebody? So in sports, I think that happens a lot because of that reason. Like, we're playing at a high level. We want to be the best player, but we do say we know God. So God almost, in a sense, become a back burner because our passion is so for the sport that we don't realize, like, we got God in the car with us, but he's just not going to drive.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I started to look at it. And when I did hit rock bottom, it's funny because one of my good friends now, Jonathan Isaac, he said, God is not only a God of the hills, but also of the valley. So when that's kind of what shapes it. Like, when you're going through the bad stuff, God's there. And when you're going through the good stuff, God is there. And when you build that relationship, you'll begin to understand that.
Now, let me ask you this then. Moving on, I kind of cut you off when you were telling your story about, so after Robert Morris, we kind of already established, you go to Georgetown. Now, you end up in the G League. Okay, now let me ask you this. I know that's a grind. I mean, I don't personally know, but anyone I've talked to, they always tell me, like, man, honestly, in some cases, college gives you a better, in terms of travel and all that other stuff. So what was that like? And I know, I kind of feel like I already know the answer to this, but did that test your faith a little bit more because you felt like, I mean, I'll be honest too, when you went to Georgetown and you had the year you did and you played as well as you did, and I'm seeing dudes in the league, getting drafted and this, that, and I'm thinking, Rodney, he's getting picked up. Like, it only makes sense. Like, he's one of the best players. He should be in the league. And again, I'm not an expert, so maybe I don't know. But just from being a dude that loves basketball, has been around basketball my entire life, I would have thought, you're there. So when that all kind of, unfolded, where were you at mentally? Were you in that mental, mindset of where you were when you were, in JUCO and kind of, okay, well, now we got to keep working? Or did you almost kind of have to kick yourself and be like, all right, this isn't what we wanted, and kind of get yourself out of that doom and gloom stage, I guess we can call it?
Yeah, I think man, when I got to Georgetown, I was on cloud nine.
Yes.
Like, we were losing, but when you look back, it's like, man, you play well pretty much every night. We just couldn't put it together as a team. At that level, everything matters to win at that level, because every team you come across is good. So the fact that I was playing at such a high level, I had so much notoriety. I'm trending on Twitter, like, I'm talking on ESPN, like, all of this crazy stuff. I was, like you said, I'm set. I'm getting to the league. Like, it's just right that I'm going to get to the league. Then, I meet Drew Hanlon. Like, he becomes one of my good buddies. We're working out. I'm getting better. So then I'm like, man, I'm about to do pre-draft with Drew. Like, I know his work. I know that he can boost me up. So I'm going, and then I'm coming off the slam dunk contest championship. So then I'm like, man, like, everything's going right. My momentum was crazy going into pre-draft. And then I almost break my ankle in pre-draft. Like, I sprained it so bad I had to cancel like 10 workouts. So then that's when my momentum started to decrease, because when you get into the pre-draft process, like, missing workouts is a red flag.
Mm-hmm.
And like, we're trying to decide, have discernment. Do we say it's because I'm hurt, or, like, what are we trying to tell these teams? So I had to take that on the chin. And then when I came back, and I wasn't even fully healthy when I came back in pre-draft. I was just like, I can't miss any more workouts, and I can't miss my pro day. By the grace of God, I didn't feel no pain on my pro day. And I was like super athletic, making every shot. And we had everybody in the building because, I did pre-draft with Jason Tatum, Shimmy Ojale, Tony Bradley, all these guys. So then in that moment, like I felt like my momentum was picking back up as we were getting closer to the draft. I did 5 workouts. But, in the workouts, I didn't feel like myself. Like I still felt like I was, just that step wasn't there. I wasn't as explosive as I know I could be. And they noticed that. So it ultimately led to me not getting drafted. I went to Summer League with Brooklyn. And when I got the practices before we went to Vegas, I was doing extremely well, competing. So I'm under the mindset like, Brooklyn's not that good. So I'm like, all right, I'm about to go to Summer League, kill, make the team. We get to Summer League. They bring 7 guys from the roster from Brooklyn. So then it's like, first game, I get a DMP. So then I'm just like, the confidence hill is just like, so now I'm trying to tell myself, like, I'm that. Like, I'm NBA. I should have been drafted, but whatever. I'm not drafted. I'm in this position now. How do I flourish? But then you get a DMP, first day of Summer League. Like, you super geek, you're on high. Then I'm asking God, what's going on? Like, what are you? But instead of, like, complaining to God, I was just trying to figure out, why am I here? Why am I in this space? What do you want me to do? What do I need to learn from this moment? And a lot of it is just humble, being humble, just knowing that, things don't always go the way you want it to go. Different spheres that I've been in, leading up to the Lord, or, just being in where whatever I said at that moment was for them. And then I ended up spraining my ankle again in the game. I hit my first 3 and it came down on somebody's foot. So I'm like, I can't catch a break. But you just begin to laugh. You begin to laugh because it's like, man, this is my life. This is my test, and I'm gonna flourish in it. So then I ended up taking an overseas offer in Turkey, which ended up falling under because the team didn't get sponsorships. So now I'm coming back to the G with Sioux Falls, Miami Heat's G League team. And now I'm like, from the stories I've heard about the D League, this is when it became the G League. I'm like, I'm about to eat the D League. Like, I'm about to go there and play like 10 games and get a call up. Like, I'm under that impression. I get to the G, DMPs. Like, my first 5 games, I didn't get in.
That's
so
crazy.
I'm just like, you just gotta laugh, because this dude that I'm clearly better than. But I always stuck to the quote, everything good happens unto the people that love the Lord, but also Abraham Lincoln's quote where he said, I will always prepare because someday my opportunity will come. And that's what I've been living by because, the opportunity may never come, but I'm going to still be prepared for it if it does, because that's where it gets bad. When you don't think it's going to come through and you start to drift in your habits, you start to drift in your mindset, and then boom, you get a deal that you're not ready for and walk in to flourish. So that's why just the totality of the story is just, I always come up for a breath because it's just amazing when you look like, man, that happened, this happened, that happened. So then it just becomes a movie going, because I'm a pro basketball player, Ant.
Yep.
Like that's still crazy. I'm not in the league, but I play professional basketball for a living. Like, that's crazy to me.
Now let me ask you this. So you looked at that in the right perspective, in my opinion at least, as all those were tests. Like, is Rodney going to weed out? Is Rodney going to last? Did you ever look at it from the perspective of, is this a sign? Maybe am I not supposed to be doing this? Because obviously we all have plans. I have plans, you have plans, but sometimes that's not God's plan for you. Sometimes that's I want to do this, and it just gets derailed. So you're like, everything happens for a reason. Maybe I'm meant to go this way. So like in your mind, Were you ever thinking like that, or were you always just confident, like, I know what I'm going to do, these are tests, I'm going to keep battling, I'm going to keep battling, I'm going to keep battling? Because I feel like I was faced with that at Robert Morris my freshman year. I met Kay, and I met you guys, and I started working out with Kay, and I started doing some stuff with Kay, and Kay was playing better, and I was really, really enjoying it. And then it got to the point where it was like I'm enjoying that off-season, unseen hours, according to Drew Hanlon. I'm enjoying that more than the game, on a Saturday afternoon or, a Thursday night or, whenever it is. So is this God's way of telling me, hey, Ant, it's time to hang up your playing shoes. I want you to go on this route, because I've always been a guy, and especially now as I get older, I'm obsessed with improvement. Like, I want to be the best version I could be. I want to be healthy. I want to be in shape. I want to be a good, a good coach, a good friend, a good brother, a good, everything. So that was always my goal, and that was kind of the way it was steering, in my eyes at least, was kind of, hey, I know that this is what you want. You wanted to play Division I basketball. I gave you a year. Like one of those things. I granted you a hell of an opportunity to play Division I basketball and be a part of a Division I program. But listen, I have bigger plans. They may not be in your plans now, but they're in my plans, so you're going to do it. So you're going to meet guys like you and guys like Kay and guys like Coach Toole, and they're even going to kind of tell you, hey, you're pretty good at, like you mentioned, hard work. You're always in the weight room. You're always on the treadmill. You're really disciplined. You're helping Kay, So that's kind of the way I took it. And, okay, you know what? This isn't, what I wanted, but I feel like this is what I was meant to do. So in your mind, I know it's kind of long-winded, but in your mind, did that ever cross your mind, or no, not ever?
No, yeah, definitely. Because mine got unique, in terms of hearing from God, because one of the scriptures is, many are the plans of a man, but the Lord's purpose will prevail. So, like, when I got to Georgetown, I was preaching by this time at my church back at home and doing just like a lot of evangelism work, just trying to spread the gospel through life. And at one point in time, I'm asking myself, because I fell in love with doing it. I'm seeing people be transformed. I'm seeing God step into people's lives and change their hearts and change their minds. And, it's just a wonderful thing to see. And it like rivaled with how I felt, dunking on somebody and,
yes,
winning big games and going through the grind of, practices and things like that. So I did have that moment where I'm like, do I still want to hoop? But then, God reminded me like I have this talent for a reason. Like I have, this platform for a reason. And, my influence comes from my platform, but also how I live within the platform. So just exhausting the platform before I go into anything else. But yeah, I mean, that definitely crossed my mind many times, especially once like my second, third year pro. So I'm going into my fourth year. So my second and third year is just like still not the opportunity. Still not the opportunity. And then like now, I have a wife, like now I got to start looking like, cause the G League you don't make money. You can't support a family in the G. So then I'm like, then life's starting to come into play and the pressure of that. So, I mean, which ultimately led me to becoming more creative and, becoming more than just an athlete, coming up with different ideas, helping people in life in different spheres. But yeah, that thought did come across, and it comes across all the time. When is God going to take me and put me somewhere else? But, just waiting for that to happen.
Yeah, no. And something else I wanted to ask you about is like the health and wellness side of things. Because I know I see you all the time, you're juicing and you're doing different things like that. How important is that to you now, and has that changed, over time for you? Because I feel like when I made that switch, even when I was in high school, I was just like any other kid, just like every other kid is. You eat McDonald's, you eat fast food, you eat fried food, you eat junk, and when you're young like that, it really doesn't matter. As you get older, you want to be in better shape, you want to look good, you want to feel good. Let's be honest, It's not lie. And I remember I made that flip, like I believe I was maybe a sophomore in high school. I was like, man, I'm working so hard. I'm going on all these runs, I'm lifting, but then I'm coming home and I'm eating like garbage. And I was like, is that offsetting, my performance? Am I basically going on a 8-mile run for no reason because I'm going to come home and eat, fried chicken and a cookie and all this stuff you shouldn't be eating? So when did you kind of make that flip, and like how big of an impact did it make on your performance? Because I think personally that's one of the biggest things athletes, at least the ones that I know and the ones that I work with, that's what they struggle with. They don't eat right. They're not taking care of their body. They're not doing things that you should be doing to help, because what you do off the floor could ultimately really, really help you on the floor. And I think sometimes players get, especially younger ones, get caught up in, well, I'm getting up my shots and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. But what are you doing off the floor? Are you icing? Are you eating right? Are you eating whole foods? Like what are you doing? So how important is that, to you? And when did you make that kind of flip in terms of your mindset?
Man, that thing is life. Like, it's everything. And it's crazy that you were able to do it as a sophomore in high school. And I hate that I'm saying it's crazy that you did it. It should be the norm. Mm-hmm. If someone's eating candy and terrible, that should be crazy. Like, I can't wait to see the flip for that. So I take my hat off to you. But I think seeds have been planted in my career and life over time. Like, even like watching you, I'm like it literally bothered me when I thought about it, because I'm like, how does he go to bed at 9 p.m.? How does he religiously get up at 4 a.m.? Like, how? Because, when you're eating bad, you just can't.
No.
Your body's on override all the time. Sugar levels are high. So you therefore. So once I didn't get fully educated on that until I met Kyle Collinsworth, that played at BYU. Mm-hmm. I met him in Toronto, my second year pro. And, you hear, eat better, you're an athlete, you can't put bad gas in a Ferrari. You hear all this stuff, but how does it become practical? And it became practical when I got educated, because Kyle, was full blown. Like, this man wouldn't even think to go to a fast food restaurant. And it literally, I'm like, yo, bro, we had Chick-fil-A, you're not going to get anything? He like, no, I'll wait. Like, he literally knew what he wanted. He knew who he was. Like, I don't eat junk food. Like, I don't. So why would I eat it? Even if it's convenient. And when I saw that, it struck a different nerve in me. Then it's so funny how life works. So then you start to remember everything else. So then I'm thinking man, that's why Ant could get up and
yep.
do all that and be consistent. So when I started to apply it to my life, and it was in, increment stages, little increments, you notice drastic difference right away. Like, it's not like a month later you start to realize it. You notice it right away. You're sleeping better. You're resting better. You're recovering better. Your body's reacting better to injuries and things like that. So when I was able to apply that, you start to like it. So now it's kind of like sin. Like, once you give your life to the Lord and you're living for God and you're trying to live righteous and do good works, by the grace of God, not in of our own self, you start to like it. So then when you sin, you're like, nah, I don't like that. Mm-hmm. So that's the flip. When we're living outside of the grace of God, sin is good. Yeah, sin, drink, sex before marriage, all this crazy stuff. You feel good about it. But then when you have the changing of the mindset, no, I can't do that stuff no more. And that's how it was with me with bad food and rest and all that. It's just I can't eat it. It hurts my stomach, and I slip up a lot, but my habits are way better than what it was before, which is giving me longevity for the game now.
And I think that's just it too. The idea of trying to be perfect, it's not possible. I mean, my definition of, a cheat meal or whatever is probably different than most. I'm eating Halo Top ice cream or something. That's wild for me, when in reality that's not that bad. But I feel like I'm on an extreme end. My discipline is crazy. I mean, when we used to have team meals, it was You know, what are you going to have? And I'm like, I'll probably just have some chicken. Oh, you don't want the potatoes? And I'm like, nah, like I just want the chicken.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I never forget we used to have rice and grilled chicken and green beans. And they'd be like, yeah, it's the Aunt Pugh meal. This is Aunt Pugh's favorite meal. And I'm like, that's just how I was, though. And, you know, I remember, too, we'd be on the road, you know, who wants dessert? Oh, you know, Aunt doesn't want dessert. Like, and that's just how it is. Like, I didn't want, you know, and it wasn't like I would sit there and just kind of be like, man, I wish I could have some of that. I truly didn't want it. You know, it was one of them things where it was like, I'm good. You know, I don't want that because I knew how it was going to make me feel. You know, and whether that's mentally or, you know, whatever, that's just how I was. But, like, the idea of chasing that, you know, perfect diet. And when I'm talking to players, they'll be like, man, coach, I ate a piece of cake last night on my mom's birthday. I'm like, yo, it's okay. You know, because what happens is you try to go so extreme and then you end up just getting in a cycle of, you know, eating good and then eating bad for 3 days and eating good for a day and then bad. You know, so I'm like, what you have to do is, like you mentioned perfectly, the increments, in my opinion at least, like work on it and then allow yourself to kind of mess up every once in a while because that's life. That's a human. You know, everyone messes up. Everyone's not, but, oh, you don't mess up. I'm thinking, yeah, but like I said, I'm like, I really look at myself in terms of discipline as a different breed. Like, I really do, because there's days that I don't want to wake up at 4 a.m. You know, like, I'll be honest, there's days my alarm goes off and I roll over and I'm like, man, I'd rather do anything right now. But I still get up because mentally I have to. You know, so it's like I'm an outlier, in my opinion, when it comes to that stuff. You know, I'm not normal. But that's one thing that I try to preach and preach and preach, and that's why I personally live it. And that's kind of my accountability. I'm sure you can attest to this too. You know, if you're looked at as a hard worker, you know, you eat right, you know, you're a man of faith, and then, you know, you have fans, because let's be honest, you have fans, you know you have fans, and they might see you on social media, and maybe you're out and you're partying and you're drinking or you're eating bad or you're swearing all the time. They're like, this guy's a hypocrite. You know, he's not really, you know, living what he's preaching. And then that makes people not want to follow you, you know, because then and I don't mean follow like on social media. I mean literally like follow your footsteps. You know, I want to be like Rodney. What does Rodney do? I want to act like just like Rodney. Well, if Rodney's saying, yeah, eat right, you know, go to bed, you know, don't do drugs, don't drink. And meanwhile, Rodney's up on Snapchat at 3 a.m. drinking, doing drugs, you know, partying, eating cake, you know, they're going to be like, man, what is Rodney doing? You know, that's a lie. Rodney's not a cool dude or, you know, a good guy. Rodney's a hypocrite, you know, so now even when I'm like tempted, you know, there's days that I'm tempted, like, man, it would be really easy right now if I just grab something, you know, out of the fridge or grab something on my way back, you know, from the gym or from a workout. And it's like, no, because that accountability, I'd be letting people down that I don't even know. You know, you might not even know the people that are following you, but they're following you for a reason. And you think, oh, it's okay, they'll never know. But you'll know. You know, so if you know, that's way more powerful, in my opinion, than anyone else knowing. So I think that's the big thing with the diet and the being in shape. And then I tell people, too, like in terms of being in shape, it's so much easier just to stay in shape than to get out of shape and try to get back into shape. Like, just don't let yourself get out of shape. Anyone I've talked to, especially lately, that has been playing better has always brought up the idea of, well, I'm eating better, or, you know, I'm sleeping better, I'm in better shape, I'm running more, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And that's why, like I said, there's so much more. And that's why, like, a guy like David Nurse, I know I'm pretty sure you know who he is. Like, he's been like a mentor to me, because he's exactly like kind of what I strive to be like, in terms of he's helping players become all around, like good people, you know, good players, you know, all that. And that's something that I think it all ties together. That's why I love basketball so much, because it's so much relatable to life. You know, how you view things, how you treat other people, how you treat your coaches, you know, your habits you develop in terms of hard work and discipline and dedication and all that. So I did want to know your 2 cents on that. But something else I wanted to ask you about, kind of shifting gears a little bit, is what you're doing now. You know, I know you started those 1-minute segments, you know, every week about different topics, and you got a new logo and everything like that. So if you wouldn't mind, kind of touch on that and tell people what that's all about.
Yeah, so, you know, getting into this space now with COVID, I can't play basketball. And the means of how I make money can't happen anymore. I can't be physically with people. So now it's like you got to get creative. So I'm thankful for that sense because it gave me a chance to stop and analyze what's going on in my life and where I'm at and where I want to be. And you know, when the Bible teaches us it's better to give than to receive. And you know, I was just at a point in my life where I'm receiving so much life. It's been 4 months yesterday that I've been married, which is just crazy. You know, just all these good things pouring into my life, meeting different people who are, you know, driven, ambitious, you know, humble. So I'm getting all of this and I'm like, man, what do I do with all of this? You got to give it out. And I knew my platform, like you talked about the following and stuff like that. You know, you just begin to have a heart for people. You start to have that compassion to want to see people's lives transformed and living in joy, even in suffering. Like, it's like a message of life doesn't always get better. We just get stronger. So then in turn, our internal becomes better, even if our external isn't that great. So that's kind of what drove me to start, you know, building content and just creating that. You know, it's a slow start. I'm not going to be speaking to the masses and doing all this. It might start with one person, you know, it might start with one DM, but to start it, to build it, and to continue it, you know, just building good habits, like not getting discouraged when things like where I'm not a public speaker, my second day doing this. So that part was unique too. And then like with the 1 minute segments, you know, just social media right now is a powerful platform. You know, we just see so much going on with like, you know, social. In my spirit, I just felt like we're trying to transform people with negative thoughts and ideas. Like, you never want to associate something good with negative thoughts, even like with food, working out. Like like you said, when people get out of shape, working out now seems like hell. You're like, man, and then people think, all right, I'm super out of shape, I need to run 5 miles. No, go for a walk. You just do little stuff. You never walk. Go for a walk. You know, go play ultimate frisbee. You don't need to go run on a treadmill. Go play ultimate frisbee. You might burn more calories, finding creative ways to just make life fun, make doing hard things, you know, fun. So from that aspect, just trying to figure out different ideas of how you can make it applicable for people, because it's one thing to have good ideas, but it's another to help people actually apply it to their life.
Yeah, I love that. And that's something, like, I know I go on walks every day, and it's not because I feel like I need to lose weight or anything. It's like a mental clarity thing. You know, like after dinner, actually later today, after dinner, I'll eat dinner and then I'll go on a walk. You know, it's just something like, in my opinion, it gets kind of my creative juices flowing. Like you said, I wake up with a million ideas a day. You know, I wake up with, man, I could do this, I could do that. And then eventually it gets down to, okay, that's stupid, that'll never work. You know, like, you got to be honest with yourself. You can't act on every idea you have, you know, so like, like that's kind of where I go. But then in the morning, like, my thing with that dang Stairmaster, man, is I truly love to wake up. And this is going to sound kind of crazy, and I bet you could relate to this. You want to wake up and you want to do something hard. Like, I crave that discomfort. Like that I want to wake up and, man, I don't feel like getting on this thing for 25 minutes today, man. My legs are sore, you know, and then I got to lift after. Like, man, I don't feel like doing it. But you're like, no, I'm going to make myself do it. You know, so then you make yourself do something hard right off the jump of the day, and then everything else is easy. You know, then you got to go, and you have, you know, 5 or 6 workouts that day. You're in the gym all day. Oh, that's not hard. That's a long day. That's not hard though. You know, I did something hard this morning. I woke up at 4 a.m. I lifted for an hour. I did cardio for a half hour. You know, that's not hard. That's easy. And that's something that I'm happy you mentioned, that idea of like that physical activity, because I know that's something big, you know, obviously with you as well, is you're always promoting people just to get out and move. And that's the same thing with me. You know, go on a walk. You know, it doesn't have to be a 3 mile walk. Walk around your block. You got to start somewhere.
Literally.
I mean, you got to start somewhere, right? But
yeah.
Last question I got for you, something I always like to end with. So let me ask you this. What is one non-negotiable thing that you do every day? Just something, and I'm sure, if someone like you, you obviously pray, you do things like that, but kind of something different, something that the people that know you maybe wouldn't know. Maybe it could be a habit or, it's just something, a routine, something along those lines, but something you do day to day where you wake up and you go, okay, I can't go to sleep tonight until I get this done or that done.
Oh, that's a good one. Oof.
Yeah, it's because the thing is too, and I know like everyone kind of has like their thing in terms of, like I said, for you it'd be like you're obviously gonna pray or you're gonna work out, things like that. But I feel like everyone too, even if it's something little, I feel like everyone has that little thing that they have to do. Like for me, it's that idea of that wake up time. I feel like I always think of The Rock, when I say this, but like that's the anchor to my day. I have to wake up and I have to work out. And that's kind of generic and kind of cliche, but that's truly how I feel. That's not a made-up answer. That's a fact. No matter where I'm at, I could be on vacation. I could be in a different state. I could have the busiest day ever. I have to wake up, at my normal time and get a workout in. So just for you, like what is that thing?
Yeah, that's good. That wake up at 4 is crazy. I think for me right now, for a while it was push-ups. Like I had to do push-ups.
I like that.
But then I think once probably serving my wife.
I like that.
Because right now she's the breadwinner for our family. Like she works for Homeland Security, so she has a really good job right now. So she's the breadwinner for the household. So now it's like, what can I do for her every day? And it could be something like little. Mm-hmm. If she make dinner, I clean the dishes, or I do dinner and do the dishes, or just finding ways. Because now, like when you enter a marriage, like we both got to be here in order for me to go. Like I can't go and do things if me and her aren't right. So I've been in that space now, like where I'm like I got to do something for my wife. Not materialistic. Sometimes it is material things where I go get her something. I'll go get her a car, but just little stuff, rub her feet when she don't expect it, whatever that may be. Even going outside of my comfort zone, going to the grocery store with her. Just little, weird stuff like that, I think has been what's given me life every single day. Like I wake up and I have a chance to serve my wife today. So I like that you have that question too, because what it does is it helps you understand why you woke up today. Because if you know how it is, like if you waking up and you don't know why you up, then more times than not, you're not going to do nothing.
Yes.
You're going to sit around, do nothing. Yep. Excuses is going to pile up. You live in that victimhood mindset. Like I'm the victim, woe me all the time. But when you wake up with a purpose, when you wake up with a reason, then that's when life starts to get interesting and you're able to push forward.
I love that. Before I let you go, tell everybody where to find you, on social media, all that good stuff. Because like I mentioned, you're putting out all that good content right now on Instagram in terms of that 1 minute segment and everything kind of you're going to continue to build, with what you're doing, which I'm personally excited to see it. And I'm sure everybody else will that listens. So kind of tell people where to find you on everything.
Yeah, on Instagram and Twitter, I'm at R_D_P11. It's a unique. It might be too difficult, but
I'll put it in the show notes.
Oh yeah, for sure. But yeah, just if you're ready for purpose, you're ready to be pushed, you're ready for practical advice. Let's do this. It's all about community. I've had the unique chance of meeting people like having multiple host families, different places I go, people pouring into me. So I think that's where we got to go, build communities, and then within those little communities become leaders and push out forward.
I love that, Rod. It's always a pleasure.
Always.
Like you said, it's crazy how we don't talk or we don't see each other for a while, but then we hop on a call and it's like just like college again. Just like
Oh,
it's
I
like
know,
you're
yeah.
it's like you're a little bit away. So hey, I really do. I appreciate you. I know you got a lot going on, so I appreciate you hopping on and spending some time with me. We'll definitely stay in touch.
Oh yeah, definitely. I got to get out there and get in one of those workouts.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. You let me know. I'm ready whenever you are. I appreciate you, Rod.
All right, buddy. Yeah, appreciate it, man.